Hello, welcome back to our YouTube channel, John the PM, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about lessons learned. Lessons learned happens to be one of my very favorite topics, one of my very, efforts to do, not just on projects in of itself, but actually just as a daily habit, in that regards. You may ask why. The reason why is because, at least in my thought process, is that going forward, I like to maximize my chances of success and minimize my chances of failure. The best way that I know how to do that is to do a reflection on what has happened so that I can always improve. So notice I begin with myself first, and then we expand outwards to the team. But it begins with you as the project manager. Before you ask your team to do the lessons learned, I have to ask you, do you actually do it for yourself? Okay. So after we, have acknowledged that we've done it for ourselves and we've actually practiced it, then we take it to the team and encourage them. And we want to encourage them, not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense, because we want it to become a habit, a way of life, to just naturally do it. In some of my more high performing teams that I've had the opportunity to work with and observe and everything, one of the key determinants is how well do they do their lessons learned, not lessons identified. A lot of people are good at identifying lessons. What I'm really saying is, do they take those lessons that they identify, did something with it in order to improve their game? And that is what we are all about. Okay, so let's break down lessons learned into two parts. One is introspectives, and then the other one is going to be retrospectives. Introspectives for my military DoD market clients, you're going to think of them as hot wash, in those pieces, so in those areas. They basically, at the end of the day, when we say introspective or hot wash, what we're really just saying is, what are the things that I can work on for the next 24 or 48 hours? In other words, that very, very short time period. So if I'm in the middle of a conference, and let's say that it's a 5-day conference, and let's say that you are responsible for actually delivering this conference. One, congratulations, but it is a lot of work. Okay. So you did all the planning and all those other great things, and now you're actually in the middle of doing your project. This is what I would suggest. Schedule some time at the end of the day, Monday, at the end of the day on Tuesday, at the end of the day on Wednesday, at the end of the day on Thursday, maybe even at the end of the day on Friday, but at least on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And ask your staff, pull your staff together and ask, hey, what went good or get bad? What could would you sustain, improve? We'll talk about formats a little bit better, a little bit later, in this series here, in that regards. But just basically ask them, how did the day go, and what can we do to improve ourselves the next day? Not the next conference, but the next day. That is an introspective. That is a hot wash. And I would highly recommend that you do that, on those regards. You can even take it to with your families, just as a matter of fact. Let's say that you're going to have a 3 or 4 day vacation with your family. Just at the end of the day, or an appropriate time, just ask, hey, how did the day go? What can we do differently tomorrow, or keep the same, whatever may be the case. This way, it's a continuous improvement. One of the other items too is that it gives you an opportunity to self-correct as you're going through the project. One of the worst things that you actually want to happen is for you to get towards the end and some of your stakeholders, whether they're on your team stakeholders or their customers, say you should have did this, you should have did that, you should have done that. It's way too late after the fact, on those areas to correct on that particular conference. So again, introspective. Retrospectives, again, in my military DoD market, we may call them AARs, after action reviews, in that regards. They sometimes will call them lessons learned, on those side. But it's a little bit more formal, in that regard. And what it really is designed to do is to look at the entire conference and how we can change the parts of the conference for next year. In other words, you're looking more at a systems change, on those pieces. So what that says is that back on the introspective, if somebody wants a new location for the conference, that's just not the time to talk about it, not during the introspective. The time to talk about it is going to be on the retrospective. Okay. So just to kind of carve those two out, in that regards. Again, taking this down the families, anybody that's been in one of my classes, they know that I reference families a lot, in that regard. And one of the reasons why I do that is because all the processes that we talk about, are scalable and repeatable. You at the end of the day, I just want you to use it, on that side. So don't think that you have to wait until the big project to actually use any of these skill sets. Just use them as a part of your normal life. You'll be far better off, in all regards. But let's come back, to the lessons learned on those pieces. We talked about the introspective and we talked about the retrospective and how those can work. A couple of things that people sometimes want to talk about. One is the format. Well, first off, the format is not that important. Okay. What's important is that you have a format, whatever format you like, essentially. But what's more important is that you actually do it. What are some common ones? The ones I like on a very personal basis is sustain, improve. I just love that one. Why? Because it's fairly, distinct. What are the things that we will continue to do? That means sustain. And what are the things that we will work on? Those are improve. Okay. So sustain, improve. Some people, some organizations go, what went well, what did not go well. That's awesome too. Other organizations may use start, stop, continue. I know within the scouting organization, that's the one that we use, very religiously, on those areas. Another one could be roses and thorns. Okay. Again, the format really, is inconsequential. Just pick a format, one that feels good to you, and just use it. Now, regardless of the format, and I'm going to use just sustain improvement just as an example, the way I would do it in a team setting is I would have a board, a wall board or something of that nature. And I would just say, hey, what are the things that we should sustain? And let them write it down, on those pieces. Somebody says improve, saying, hold off, we're talking about sustainment now, on those areas. Give people time to process. Okay. Sometimes as leaders, we already have the ideas in our heads, and so we're just kind of like going forward. But some folks need time to process information. In full disclosure, I am actually one of those folks. In that regards, they actually need to have a few minutes to to process whatever's happening and things of that nature. I like to think before I talk, on those regards. So, do be cognizant of that as you are facilitating or moderating this meeting. One very good technique that I've often used is to do a countdown, towards the end, kind of like 4, 3, 2, 1. And this just allows people to kind of know, hey, we're getting ready to transition, any final words, things of that nature. All right. So that was on the sustain. Then we do improve. You basically go through the same cycle and improve. Hey, what are all the things you want to improve? Da, 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 da. Go ahead, write it down, on those areas. Make sure they're on the board, on that side. Make sure it's clear that you know what they're talking about. I wouldn't necessarily criticize the idea. I would ask them to amplify or edit. One of the biggest reasons why is because they may have seen something from their perspective, but other people did not see it from their vantage point. Okay, so sometimes you have to reconcile, like what happened, on those areas. So don't be surprised that doesn't occur, on those aside. Again, give time, for people to process, in those areas, then usually the countdown really does help to kind of make sure that people know, hey, we're about finished, on those areas. That okay. So we have our sustained, we have the things that we want to improve. The next step after that is really you got to do something with it. Okay. On a personal basis, I wouldn't try to do all of the lessons for improvement. I wouldn't try and do that. What I would do is pick a few, work on those, implement them. The reason why is there's going to be another project behind it, and then on those areas, and there will be opportunity to improve it. Unless there's always an exception, it was a complete failure, and a trouble project, a project that went south. You know what I'm talking about, and you really do have to like clear off the, unfortunately, may have to clear off the people as well, but clear off all the processes and just rebuild from the very beginning, in those cases, and sometimes that can occur, on those pieces. All right. Afterwards, don't forget to do, your adequate follow up. Make sure that people know that they've been heard, in that regard. Sometimes it is a good idea to take a before picture and an after picture so that people know how much things have improved, on those areas. That doesn't mean that things shouldn't improve further, but at least should be acknowledged that we have done something, on those pieces, in that regards. All right, so these are just supposed to be, short, to the point videos. Again, I could go on for a while, actually, on any one of these topics on these areas. So just to recap very quickly on lessons learned, the very first thing, do the lessons learned. I mean, just like do it, okay? And don't lapse into identifying the lessons learned, but actually do something with the lessons learned. So that's probably the most critical item. There's a difference between introspective and retrospective, also known as hot wash and after action review, on those areas. Do try to give people, time to actually process the information as they kind of go forward on those areas. Format wise, just pick a format and move on with it, in those areas that, format that the group actually, enjoys and things of that nature. There's some other pieces to it, but I just really wanted to kind of hyper focus on that side. In some future episodes, I'll kind of talk about what is the role of the project manager, meaning you, in those areas. And just as a teaser for that, I will say this. One of the biggest roles for the project manager is to come in with the facts. You said you were going to do this. This is what happened, on good, bad, or ugly, and allow the team to kind of react to it. But more to follow, on those pieces. If you like this episode, please do hit the like button. Please subscribe to our channel. It helps us to help you. Why? Because we want you to be wildly successful in all of your projects. Thank you, and have a great day.